Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started as people are kind of trickling in here. Thank you all so much for coming and listening to, we want to make sure we get factual information out to you. My name is Diane Allen, and I have the pleasure of serving as superintendent here for a couple more months. So really, kind of as I started out, tonight's about getting out factual information, making sure we can ask some questions, and maybe clean up some untruths or myths that may be existing on social media or out in the public. And my part is really to talk about the great things happening in the district and really talk about our kids. There's no doubt about it. My heart is in education. As an educator, I couldn't be more proud of what happens in Marysville Schools every single day for the benefit of our kids. Our staff is amazing. We work diligently to think about our students' futures and help them think about their future. Try to spark their curiosity, give them tools to be innovators and think differently about the world around them. To me, it's a very, very special place. And really the bottom line is, when they leave us, where are they gonna go? And how have we molded that decision? So what collective experiences have they received as a part of Marysville Schools to make a decision about their future, whether they're going to the military or to the workforce or to college? You know, what have we provided to them to help them make that informed decision? And that's really the joy in it all, to watch them pursue their passions and their dreams and become the best version of themselves that they can be. I'm also very proud to tell you that we're rated a 4-star district out of a 5-star system in Ohio, and certainly that's something we hang our hat on. Our achievement scores are high. We're in the top 17% in the state of Ohio with achievement for our students, so we're really proud of that. Graduation rate, we're 5 stars. One area you're gonna say, hey Diane, what's going on with progress? Well, we're a 2-star district when it comes to progress, and we need to get better there. So progress is really about how you move each individual student on their line of trajectory. It is an area, quite honestly, that we used to score a little higher in. So principals are working diligently this year, really drilling down to individual student data and taking a look at that in order to change that trajectory. But all in all, we're super proud of where we are. We have 7 buildings that are at minimum a 4-star and many above. And then we have 3 that are not at a 4-star yet. One thing that I'm super proud of is right now we have less than a 10% remediation rate when kids go to college. So in terms of parenting, that's real money in the pocket for parents. I think it was about 13 years ago, we were about 43% remediation, and now we're sitting at 8%. So super proud of that. We most recently earned the Auditor of the State Award, which is an audit of our books and finances. And so we're super proud of Todd and a whole bunch of people that go into that work in order to make that happen. Our students last year earned over 3,200 college credits before they left high school. So I think that's pretty amazing and speaks to the rigor of our students as well. But we are much more than just a report card and achievement. In my mind, it's also about the student experience. And last board meeting, we were able to honor over 100 students that had state or national level recognition. So just our students are doing amazing things. And I'd like to tell you that every kid graduates from Marysville and remembers Algebra 2. But quite frankly, they remember prom, baseball games, softball games. It's all a part of that experience when you're going through school. Our show choir is nationally recognized, over 60 grand champion awards, so super proud of our students there. Anyone who goes to a Friday night football game can take bragging rights on our marching band for sure. And FFA is another organization that is ranked nationally and noticed across several states for just their outstanding outcomes for students. So these are just a few examples. I could go on and on and on, but our meeting isn't long enough. But just to highlight the importance of that overall experience for students in the classroom and outside of the classroom, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a school district that does it better than Marysville.
Okay, Diane gets to talk about and brag about our academic achievement. I have to talk about our financial challenges. So talking a little bit about how we got here, our current financial situation. We've talked over and over in the past about our tangible personal property, that loss in funding. Back in 2005, we hit the peak of our tangible personal property funding. At that point, we were receiving over $9 million per year. Then the state made a change in their the law regarding TPP to make the state more business friendly. So that got rid of that TPP funding. They began to phase it out. So this year will be the last year that we receive any funding. We're going to receive, I think the number's around $450,000 likely this year. So that'll be the last amount of funding we should receive. So we went from over $9 million down to practically nothing. It will be nothing next year. And so, yes, we've known for a long time that that's going to be happening, but at the same time, each time we may get an increase in state funding on the formula side or maybe an increase on the real estate tax side, we're also seeing that decrease from the TPP annually for the last 20 years. On the revenue side, we're one of the lowest revenue per pupil districts in the state. So 97% of all districts in the state of Ohio receive more revenue per pupil than Marysville Schools. And a big piece of that's going to be our levies. So if you see the next bullet there, no new operating levies since 2008. So that's been 17 years since our last new money operating levy, which is a big driver as to why we have such a low revenue per pupil. Another challenge of our financial situation is increasing enrollment. So we've been increasing. We did have estimates of around 100 students per year. That's come down a little bit. We're now estimated to grow by about 85 students per year. So I would call that moderate. We're not like exploding like an Olentangy, but at the same time, when you're growing 85 students per year, and your staff is decreasing, that creates an issue. So because of some of those levy cuts, we have a decreasing staff and an increasing enrollment. So that definitely creates some challenges. State funding, so our state foundation formula is based on outdated costs. So every 2 years, we get a new funding formula. We're at the end of our current biennial budget, so anything after June 30th is kind of your best guess. We do have a simulation that they've put out based on the initial proposal. That current proposal, it shows the district losing over $200,000 per year each of the next 2 years, whereas our current 5-year forecast assumes an increase of $250,000 per year. So if you take those two things into account, the forecast would decrease by about $900,000 over that 2-year period. Now, we don't know where that's going to end up. It goes from the governor to the House to the Senate, so we won't know until the end of June what actual state funding is going to look like. But really the main issue with that initial proposal is the formula is there's components based on the cost of educating a student. What's it cost to pay a teacher? What's it cost to pay for a principal? Those kinds of things. They're using outdated factors. They're using factors based on 2022 data. The reason they're doing that is because to update those factors to the current date they've estimated it would add about $1 billion to the state budget. So they've basically manipulated the budget, manipulated the formula to keep the number down because it would cost a lot more to fully fund that formula. But it doesn't help a school district like us. A lot of districts are proposed to be losing money. And finally, one that's been in the news a lot just very recently is the preschool expense that's going to be an unexpected increased cost to the district. So if you haven't heard, the Union County Board of Developmental Disabilities, they just passed the levy last November but there were some unexpected costs increases that that wasn't calculated into that levy, so the levy wasn't enough. So preschool, when they were looking at balancing their budget, preschool was kind of, I guess, an easy choice for them because it wasn't legally required for the county to do that. It's actually the school district's legal requirement to educate those students. So that the preschool program is going to be pushed from the UC DD onto Marysville Schools. Now we've got a meeting on Wednesday, I believe, to discuss that and the impact of that even more. So we're still really early in the process of this discussion. But it looks to be an increased cost of about $3 million per year that will be pushed onto the district. To put that in perspective, this levy in May would generate about $6.8 million annually. So you're talking close to half of that levy would go towards those preschool costs, and that wasn't even part of the original calculation. So where does the money go? Our operating revenues, how is it spent? The majority of it, 89%, is spent on staff and benefits expenses. A school district is a service-oriented organization, so people, that's our main resource. That's the same for most any district in the state. You're going to be anywhere from that 85 to 90%. 8% is spent on purchase services, only 2% supplies and materials. So what this really shows is when you need to balance the budget, really the only way you can make a significant impact is with people. When it comes to cutting, you're going to end up cutting staff. This postcard, we've got that on the table out there, and this is going to be going out in the mail. This is really what we think are some of the main talking points when it comes to the finances of the district and really why we have challenges with where we're at right now. So on the expenditure side, our expenditure per pupil is close to $3,000 below the state average. That puts us as the lowest expenditure per pupil in the county of all the county school districts in Union County. And 83% of schools in Ohio spend more per pupil than Marysville Schools. So that's why we say we don't have an expenditure problem, we have a revenue problem. So when we have a low expenditure per pupil, that means our staffing is going to be low as well. So if you look at our student-teacher ratio, it is 26 students to 1 teacher is our current student-to-teacher ratio, whereas the state average is 20 to 1. So we have the lowest, or I should say worst, student-teacher ratio in the county, and 99% of Ohio schools have more teachers per student than us. We're actually ranked 5th highest in the entire state, and there's an asterisk there. The asterisk shows that if this levy fails and we implement the final phase of the contingency plan, which is to cut an additional 30 staff members, we would actually have the first highest student-teacher ratio in the entire state. So we also have less administrators than most districts, so our student administrator ratio is 177 to 1 compared to a state average of 117 to 1. That's also the worst in the county, and 92% of Ohio schools have more administrators per pupil. So having less administrators, obviously our administrative cost per pupil is going to be lower. We have the lowest administrative cost per pupil in the county, and 93% of Ohio schools spend more on admin per pupil than we do. And finally, like we've said many times, we feel like we have a revenue issue, not an expenditure issue. Our revenue per pupil is almost $5,000 less than the state average. We have the lowest revenue per pupil of all of our other Union County districts, and 97% of Ohio schools receive more revenue per pupil than Marysville Schools. So talking about levy planning, when you're doing levy planning, you have to have a long-range look, a long-range forecast. You can't just look at the immediate future. So 2012, there was a failed operating levy at that time, and there were a lot of significant cuts made at that time. And one of the strategies after that levy, and the community kind of gave the message that, we're tired of the school being on the ballot every year. There's a renewal this year or a renewal the year after, so they wanted us to be off of the ballot so often. So in 2013, We passed a renewal into continuing. So what that means is when it's in a continuing levy, you don't have to keep coming back every 5 years to ask for that to be renewed. So that was part of that strategy. 2018, to stick with that same strategy, there were 2 issues passed. One was a renewal into continuing again. So again, not a new money levy. It was a renewal so that wouldn't have to be replaced or renewed every year. And then we also had that no new millage PI levy where we took some bond millage, able to move that over into the permanent improvement fund, did not increase taxes, but it allowed us to shore up our permanent improvement fund, which helps take care of our buildings, buy school buses, and those kinds of things. So more recently, May of 23, we failed an 8.4 mil new operating levy. When that failed, we came back in November 24 for 5.5 mils. If you may remember, one of the main reasons we were able to decrease that millage, well, 1, because we made some significant cuts, but 2, our state funding increased by about $3.5 million. That was unexpected. And that goes back to how I talked about those biennial budgets where we don't know what we're going to get until usually end of June, early July. So May of 25, we've mentioned before there's a 5.5 mil operating levy on. Again, we're currently in the process of a facilities planning study, looking at our buildings, looking at the capacity as well as how the shape of our buildings, what kind of shape they're in, and as well as looking at projected enrollment for the next 10 years and would we need new buildings. So that's going to be coming soon. There's based on early the early results, it looks like we could potentially need new buildings by the end of the decade. So that's something that will be coming soon and be discussed a lot. And finally, the last pink bullet there, local revenue changes 2035. The reason we put that on there, there's always a lot of discussion when talking about local revenue, the TIFs. So the TIF is where tax revenues in certain areas are diverted from the school and go to the city instead. The city uses that for infrastructure for their projects. 2035 is when a lot of those projects are going to be expiring around that time frame. So when that happens, that should be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel because our property values will then go up because those TIF values will come onto our books and our revenue will go up at that time. So that's a good thing in 2035. We just have a little while till we get there. So that's why this levy is important until we get to that point. So what have we done to address some of these fiscal challenges? As we mentioned, we had the levy requests in May 23 and November 24, and then again, obviously, we're on here for May of 25. After that May 23 levy failure, we reduced 30 positions, and if this May 25 levy were to fail, there would be another 30 positions that would be reduced. Basically, the result of those positions is less opportunities for students. And Diane's going to get into some more of those details later on here. And then also, we would be maintaining that higher class size cap, so more students in the classroom per teacher. The school resource officer program was discontinued last November. Pay to participate fees were increased to $575 for athletics, $225 for show choir and band. We have partnerships with High Point and Honda at the high school and Bunseled to help offset some of the costs of some of those programs. We've received a lot of dollars in grants in the past. We're always looking for new grants that we can use in the future. One of the problems is the state and basically grantors look at Marysville Schools as a relatively wealthy district. And everybody might not think that, but that's the way, based on our property valuations and median incomes, a lot of grants are based on that. So a lot of districts are ahead of the line when it comes to grants compared to us. Always looking for energy savings. Most of our buildings are Energy Star certified, so we're trying to save money where we can on the utility bills. And then with staffing being one of our major costs, insurance, like with most companies, is a major cost factor for us. We have an insurance committee that meets pretty much every month. We try to negotiate annually to reduce the the premium renewals. I'll turn it back over to Diane.
Sure. So really, why do we need the additional revenue? Todd hit on several of those aspects, but really all of these kind of arrows are coming in on the school district at this point. Our enrollment is increasing. Really, we're one of the few districts in Ohio that is seeing increased enrollment. As a state, birth rates are actually going down. Union County and Marysville specific, they continue to increase. So it's kind of an unusual exception to the rule. We want to retain high quality staff for our students. We want to continue to offer high quality educational opportunities for our students. So when they go to make those decisions about where they're going after high school, they're well informed. We'd like to keep fees for families and participation costs low so that more kids can participate. We know the more engaged students are in the school experience, the more successful they are at large. We'd like to keep class sizes low and manageable for our staff and maintain safe schools. We're lucky in Marysville to live in a safe community. It is a safe place to be, but we all know that safety has become a growing concern in educational spaces, and we want to make sure that our kids and our staff continue to have a safe place to come and work and learn. As well, we want to continue to maintain physical education, art, music, those kind of options. At the end of the day, there are lots of kids that look forward to those options, not reading and math, right? They're looking for brain breaks and opportunities to release energy and look forward to those environments to make that happen. And really, our dynamics, really centering on that, come down to our ability to fund those options. Our state and local funds are lagging. So Tuesday, May 6th, you're going to be asked as a community member to consider our ballot issue, which is a 5.5 mil emergency operating levy. Todd already talked about, but I think we keep saying it. It generates for us $6.8 million annually in our forecast. That would offset a $9 million average annual deficit spending that you see in our forecast. I think Todd just shared something that's vitally important to that conversation. It's really that idea of preschool coming to the school district and the district incurring about $3 million of costs associated with that. So just about half of what we're asking. When this ask was developed, we did not know that preschool would be coming on our books. Unfortunately, that's just happened within the last few weeks, and it's too late to alter our ask. We've already had to submit that information. So for a taxpayer, it's $16 a month per $100,000 of home value. So if your home is worth $300,000, you multiply 16 times 3. We also have a calculator on our website that does all the math for you. So you put in the value of your home, it calculates the assessed value and tells you what you would owe. So I would tell you to go there and look if you want to be curious about your personal impact. So what's next for us? So if the levy is approved, we are able to maintain staff, maintain courses for current courses. I know some of you alluded to reading in the newspaper, and I'm going to talk about specifics, what the courses are, K-12. We'd be able to increase safety and security and adjust pay to participate fees. If the levy is not approved, so this last month, our Board of Education voted to reduce 30 staff members according to our contingency plan. So that is required. So that final stage of implementation would take place. We would continue to look at participation fees being neutral. So we will look at participation rates, so the number of students involved. And so the 575 that Todd mentioned before, if we've seen a decrease in participation, that number will likely go up based on the number needing to offset that. So the idea is really that the money generated through participation fees would cover the salaries of coaches, the expenses of travel, things along that nature. There would be a reduction of physical education, art, music, and elective offerings K-12. So impacts by grade level, I think that that's important, especially as a parent to understand. So when you think about our K-4 spaces, currently students get physical education, art, music, a library rotation once a week. So moving forward into next year, if it is not successful, students will only have physical education 1 time a month. They will have library 1 time a week. They will have a music experience up to 3 times a year. So there's a little question about what's music experience. It could be the high school choir could come down and perform for the students at the elementary and maybe do some one-on-one singing groups or small group singing groups. But that would happen 3 times a year. There would be an art experience similar to that 3 times a year. And there would no longer be a technology course offered in K-4 to our students. So our students currently do some basic coding and learn keyboarding in our elementary schools, but we would not be offering that moving forward. Creekview at our intermediate school. So again, students have access to those same courses during the week on a regular basis now. Moving forward, if the levy were not successful, the physical education offerings would be an experience 3 times a year. Music would be daily during recess, so they could engage with band or choir opposite their lunchtime. They would have an art experience up to 3 times a year. There would be no STEM courses offered, so science, technology, engineering, and math courses, no technology course, and library would become more like a resource or a media center where teachers would bring students to that space instead of being a regular rotation in that space. Bunzel Middle School will have several courses not offered. I probably won't read all of these, but automation and robotics. So that is automation, robotics, design, modeling, fab lab, all are in the engineering pathway. And so really start kids at the elementary or middle school thinking about engineering, working with their hands in design and modeling. Again, transitions to careers, principles of food, Spanish offerings, Japanese offerings. There'd be no 7th grade physical education, and there would no longer be 7th and 8th grade career connections classes. So impacts at the high school level, you're going to see, again, several here. I also gave this presentation to the board last month, so if you watch our meetings, it's on there as well. But our Fab Lab, which is, again, in that engineering space, so designing an idea, doing a prototype, and then bringing it to life and making it and creating it for a purpose. Several AP courses, AP Calc, AP US History, World History, Physics, Chem, Computer Science, Spanish, Japanese. So certainly several listings here that will impact the high school. Also during the enrollment process, so students are signing up for classes next year. So any of those courses that have an enrollment that would be 20 or less, we would no longer be offering. So I do think this list might grow just a little bit after that process. So really, what does this mean? For us, at this point, it's kind of a balancing act. We would like, obviously, to offer robust opportunities to kids. That's kind of where I started, right, talking about that. But we do have to balance our budget. right? So we are balanced this idea of keeping high quality staff and staying competitive in the workforce for our staff members, keeping class sizes at a reasonable level, maintaining that high performance. I think you heard Todd talk about where we are in terms of financial markers, but the fact that we're performing in the top 17% of the state of Ohio should not be overlooked. I think that's very important. And really with the other side and the pressures of balancing our budget, right? And failed levies and adding on preschool and loss of TPP and loss of state funding make it difficult to balance those things. So some things, unfortunately, are designed to come off so we can continue to balance our budget moving forward.
Todd, Diane, I know we've gone over a couple minutes. Will you be around if people have any questions?
Yes, we'll wind it up. We're happy to answer questions if people have them after, and take some time to do that as well. We really appreciate all of you coming and asking your questions. If you can't stay tonight and you have a question for either one of us, we're very responsive. You can email us, you can call the office. We want to answer your questions.
Can we mention the open office hours?
We also have open office hours 2 times. I don't have those dates in front of me. That should have been on the same postcard that you were invited to this event. So if you have a question and you didn't want to answer or ask that question, we have those 2 office hours, one on April 8th and one on April 14th. That's posted on our website as well. We'd be happy to spend time with you individually answering questions as well. Thank you very much.